What's the value you should be bringing to the table in your first meeting with a client? So the first meeting is arguably the most important one that you will have. Now, if you go back to the things that your mother taught you as you were growing up, I'm sure one of the most common sayings in our culture is making a first impression. And you only get one chance to make a first impression. And obviously your biggest chance is at this first meeting. So how do you go about translating enough value to that client for them to be willing to go further? And of course, the first meeting is only the first major step in a sequence of events that really creates true client engagement. So let's think about that. What's the value you're trying to bring to the table? And what I see most advisors doing in their respective denominations is trying to get to giving the client a snapshot or an elevator pitch that suits for that individual client. In other words, if it's a financial advisor, it's sure we can take this retirement fund, we can do this with it, we can make it better because of X, Y, Z, we can save you money, we can diversify more, we can create more options. Or it could be an accountant saying, hey, you haven't had this done properly in your business, we can restructure this, we'll deliver more service than your previous accountant was, which is why you're unhappy. And the problem with all of these is they're not actually value translations. And should you even be getting to the point in most circumstances where you can really say in that first meeting, here's the value to you. Now, sure, sometimes you can. But what I want to help you to understand is that the first meeting is a chance for you to explore things with your client that they haven't really explored before. Yes, they're bringing stuff to the table. Yes, they want you to address things generally. Most of the time, they've got specific questions or ideas about what they need you to do for them. But that's not the point you should be bringing to the fore in the first meeting. And if you're just addressing those things, then you're being reactionary instead of actually exploring the value that is there for that particular client. Because most of the time, your clients don't really have clarity. That's why they need an advisor. They don't really know what it is they're trying to do. They don't really know what they're doing in order not to have that. And if you just address what they've brought to the table, then often you're starting out in the wrong place. So the value you really should be bringing to the fore in your first meeting with a client is very simple. You should be helping them to answer questions about themselves that they've never answered explicitly before. This is the key goal of your first meeting with a client. This is the best way for you to translate your true value. It's also the fastest way for you to create a real connection and expedite the trust building factor. You don't want a client walking out of there, and I'm not saying you don't want it, but it's not your primary objective to have them walking out of there going, that's going to cost less and I'm going to get more features. What you want them doing is walking out of there going, wow, that was insightful. Wow, I know things about myself that I didn't know before. You want that moment of the light bulb coming on for them when they start to realize their own answers. Because you're the one that's guided them there. You're the one that was willing to go further, to go deeper, to ask harder questions. You're the one that was there helping them to find their own answers. And if you can do that in the first meeting, then almost all of your job in terms of breaking through that initial barrier is done. And if you do that, I promise you, your engagements will be better. The fees that you can charge will be significantly greater. The value perceptions your clients take out of your work with them will be exponentially higher. The chance for them to refer will be significantly greater. And it's all because you weren't worrying about trying to sell them on something, but you were there to help them to find their clarity, to have insight, and to gain answers. You were getting them to take a step back to say, before I go forward, what is it that I'm really trying to do? And what is it that I really want? And what am I prepared to do to get there?